Hello, lovers and friends. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the show. Without any further ado, let's get right into the juiciness of today's episode. I have a special guest that I want to bring to the stage and I want to share with each and every one of you. This woman is a powerhouse in her own earned right, and she is ready to bless you guys up with her words of wisdom, her empowering story. I want to introduce to you all Alexandra Silver-Fagan.
Mm.
Alexandra has spent her life exploring the multifaceted concepts of flow and strong. You heard it right, my loves. Flow and strong. We're talking physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. She's a seasoned professional in the fitness industry for over a decade, and Alexandra's approach is to help clients discover confidence, worthiness, and their own powerful expression. She's become the youngest Nike master trainer at the ripe age of 23 and has since then developed a comprehensive expertise as a RKC kettlebell specialist. She's going to tell us a little bit more about what that actually means, as well as a registered yoga teacher and the creator of her own philosophy and methodology called Flow Into Strong. We have aligned missions to empower humans, especially women, and her mission is to really encourage everyone to work in, not just out, on the mental health space, as well as in the physical world. And I want her to share more with you about her mission and her journey. So let's bring Alexandra out. Hello, 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 honey.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that beautiful intro. It is so lovely to be in connection, and some might not know, actually most people don't know, but you've helped me a lot in recognizing my power and my strength when I hear those words of all of the things that
Mhm.
I've done, and that's a really big part of the confidence journey. It's not just doing the things, but it's like, can you really recognize how incredible and how much of a gift it is to have been able to do those things and really feel it within you. So thank you for that. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for helping me remember my own strong so I can help others.
Literally my absolute pleasure and honor. It's like, I love that. It's one of my love languages. And I love giving the intro because, again, it's oftentimes that we forget or we downplay our uniqueness and we also downplay our gifts. And that
Hmm.
doesn't serve anyone, but especially doesn't serve women. And that's, again, one of the love languages, like helping you to remember and see that piece. And you are seasoned and you are accomplished and you definitely are a professional in your field. And it's great to have sisters and coaches and mentors around us to reflect that, remind us, and, as you said, help us really get into that strength. And I feel like it's so fitting for the episode that we're having today, which is, we in these modern days are seeing more and more this movement of the soft girl era movement and soft girl world. I'm living my soft girl life. And this episode is about embodying more of the soft girl or soft woman energy. And what we don't hear anyone talking about is staying strong as fuck also.
Hmm.
There's a
Hmm.
very important piece of, like, the soft girl era doesn't mean just being a puddle. And we're going to go into that. We're going to
Right.
break that down a bit more. But I couldn't think of a better person to talk about with this than you, Queen.
Thank you so much. I've had a journey of understanding what my softness is and also what my strength is because I was confused for a really long time. And going back to recognizing who you are and your confidence, I've noticed that nothing has changed in the way that I share and my Dharma. I've been in this job for a really long time since I was super, super young, where I didn't even understand what I was doing, but I was just letting the Dharma and the wisdom flow through me. And then I would snap out of it and be like, wait, but am I good enough for that? And I
Mm,
found that things were coming to me, but they weren't as juicy. And now when I actually show up and I recognize my power, and it's like this softness of receiving the downloads, the strength of owning it, then more life keeps flowing to me. And so it's not that anything changes with who you are when you start to go into this journey. It's that you can just get more, right? It keeps getting better. That's one of your favorite things to say. And it does keep getting better. And the more you believe in yourself and honor all sides of yourself, it keeps getting better.
Absolutely.
How good can it get?
How good can you stand it, baby?
Yeah, how good can you stand it?
How good. And what you're speaking to for those that are listening is a really key practice in relaxation, right? Being able to relax the body, relax even in the nervous system, right? Beyond just the physical muscles in the body and in the nervous system. And I think it's a great opportunity to share with the audience and the world, your journey. They've been on my show. They know about a lot of my journey of personal healing, with healing my trauma and having so much of it from back in the day of like from the physical to the mental. And then finding for me, it was really about, strengthening my body with yoga, and then finding tantra and sacred sexuality. And, that really helped me heal my trauma and really create the life of my dreams, and then support queens all over the world with their dharma, right? And be able to really stand strong together. And I would love for you to share more about your journey, your specific journey with, healing, and we're going to call the soft aspect like the feminine component, because it is the relaxation. It is the receptivity. And what we're sharing with you all isn't just special for me or for Alexandra. Like, we're sharing this as a healing modality and a tool that anyone could adopt in order to enter into your, soft girl energy, or more just your feminine energy to heal and balance. So would love to hear from you on that, my love.
Sure. So my brand is called Flow into Strong. And the first tenet of that is awareness. And when I was younger, I struggled a lot with feeling safe in my environment with my family. And so the first chakra, my root, was never established. I never felt safe, which didn't allow me any opportunity to be aware because I was always on guard. So I wouldn't let anything in. And I really didn't get to a place where I felt safe until my 30s, but I was going through the motions. I always felt this connection and desire to be physical. I was always running around outside. I was president of drama club on stage. I was dancing, and I was doing all the different types of sports. I wouldn't necessarily say I was an athlete because I didn't really pick one, but I did notice that when I was moving my body, I did get out of my mind. I felt a little bit more connected, and there was more awareness there. And when I got to college, I had no identity, as most don't, and I fell into nightlife, and a lot of that was validation. It was being told that I looked good, I was making money, and again, still not that complete sense of self. And the end of the Flow into Strong journey is identity. So it's interesting that those two were kind of correlating to each other. But I was in nightlife, and I started seeing bikini competitors in fitness, and I was like, I'm going to quit the club. I don't feel like this is helping me, and I'm just going to go all in to fitness. And still, it wasn't necessarily healthy, but it was the first opportunity for me to start to shift my lifestyle into one that was centered around fitness and health and my body. And so one thing just led to the other, which is why I am very aware of source and goddess and universe, and have a lot of trust and faith in the plan, because when opportunities were presented to me, I would lean in, and then the next one would happen. I never thought when I was younger I was going to be this big fitness professional. That was never a part of my plan. But one thing led to the other. I found myself teaching group fitness, all of a sudden working for Nike. And
how did that
going a little I know that was really quick.
I was like, hold on. For those that are listening, they're going to be like, was she working in the club? Was she a box service girl? Was she just going out in the nightlife? Like, just to help those that may be going through that same piece, right? Really understand and connect to you and like your journey. Like what was that little bit of that piece? Like, you transitioned from the nightclub. What were you doing? I mean, I had my Hollywood party girl days popping by.
Right. So I was a bottle waitress working in the club. And Then I quit the club and I signed up for a bikini competition, which is bodybuilding. That led me to start working with bodybuilding.com. From there, I then started teaching group fitness classes in New York, and Nike happened to be scouting for new trainers and had heard of my name, showed up. I went into an audition, and 2 weeks later, I got signed as a master trainer with New York and with Global.
There we go. That is a story not worth skipping over, honey.
Thank you. And but what's beautiful about that is I didn't have this specific goal of I'm going to work with Nike, or I'm going to be a bodybuilding.com spokesmodel, or I'm going to be on the cover of Women's Health, which is something that I've been able to do. I never had those specific goals. I just knew that I wanted to teach and connect with people. And if you stick to the Dharma, if you stick to what is lighting you up, what you show up and you do, and then there's like, ooh, okay, as opposed to this title or label, you're going to get to wherever you're supposed to be, and you have no idea what it is. And so, and if I used to have this analogy, and I actually haven't said it in a long time, but focus on what's on your plate and trust that the cook in the kitchen is making the next course and it's going to come back out. If you're just like peeking into the kitchen, your food's gonna get cold. So just focus on what's here, what's now, and the next thing is on the way for you. And so for me, I actually then, when I started to focus more on the label and start to peek into the kitchen, I no longer had, the opportunities weren't coming my way. And it's not, some would say that I developed an awareness to then look ahead. But what I did is I wasn't present with what was in front of me. And when I started focusing on the identity, the label, I hit rock bottom. I got to a really dark place. I was in a relationship. I was engaged. And I'm fast forwarding a few years of working with Nike. And, but I was in a relationship. I was engaged. I was a full-time instructor on a fitness device that no longer exists. My partner was a part of another really big fitness company that still exists. And I got a little too excited about having all of these things, and all of it went away, which is the biggest blessing. And I found myself without any identity, without any label. And that really started my healing journey of, okay, who am I without any of this? And so I went to a very, very dark place, mentally the most unwell I've ever been. And I checked myself into a mental health treatment facility for 30 days to you don't go there to heal, you go there to create space. And so that, again, was coming back to that first tenet of my philosophy, which is awareness. I had to just be aware and present with what I was feeling and give it space to breathe and to move through me. I couldn't have any distractions. I took a break from social media. I wasn't working, and I really just needed to sit with who I was. The next piece of that philosophy is source. Awareness and source really go together, having faith that whatever's happening for you is for a reason. The next piece is pleasure and movement. So how can I find gratitude and start to move this energy through me? And that's what happened after. When I left, I started to rebuild my life, find pleasure for the experiences that I was having that weren't like what I had had before, because I really had to start over. And and then the next piece is solitude. I had to spend a lot of time alone, which I spent 4 years without a partner, which was very challenging for me. I'd always had a relationship, and as a woman, we were told that we're worthy if we have a partner versus just being okay with who we are. And so in that solitude, that's where we connected in that time. And after that, you move through to identity and transformation, which I've now found really this experience on the other side. So that's an abridged experience of my journey through this philosophy that I've developed, which, by the way, years ago, Flow into Strong was just for connecting yoga and strength training. And then I realized, oh, it's actually this journey of healing ourselves and loving ourselves and remembering our strength so that we can share it with the world.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of pieces again that we share values in, right? Like the pleasure and the movement, the awareness. I love that you're bringing in the solitude piece because we'll unpack a little bit of that more because it is really a necessity to.
Hmm.
And there's a really beautiful book by Osho which is called Love, Freedom, and Aloneness. And that book was one that I had used specifically on my solitude journey when I was traveling around Asia and was on my own. And so I love that you bring that in because I actually don't talk about that much myself and I don't hear a lot of other people speaking about it. So I love that you're bringing it in and we want to unpack more of like, what did you discover? Right? Because
Hmm.
it seems like it's scary. So the faith piece is really important. I mean, I have that tattooed on my body. It's like, it's such a fundamental piece. And that's something that you've always had when you were younger? There's two parts. Was that something you've always had when you were younger? And then was there a moment that you experienced a kind of like hallelujah moment where you're like, wow, this is really freaking real? Like a on
Hmm.
the knees moment, crying to the universe, being like, fucking help me, I'm ready. Receipt. Like, was there any of those moments for you? Just because I know faith is such a loaded topic. And so I
Hmm.
always like to just find out more about what people's beliefs are and what their journeys are of what helped them strengthen that level of faith.
Yeah. I mean, the safety, faith, being alone. When you're alone, you can hear your thoughts more clearly and you can start to differentiate between thoughts that are related to an old story or a pattern versus the ones that are, I believe, divine and wisdom coming through you. And if you don't have enough space, you won't be able to hear them. My on my knees moment, honestly, was going to treatment, just like raising my hand. And it
Mm,
actually took me a really long time to recognize that that moment was the first time that I said, God, Goddess, Sky Daddy, Universe, I need some support. Really, just let me live, because I didn't want to live anymore. But I deep down I did. There was a passion.
yeah.
And I grew up in a religious household with Judaism. I've recently connected to Kabbalah. My yoga practice really is, to me, the most divine in that I'm there's so many different layers to it where I can just come home to myself and divinity rests within me.
Yeah.
And that's when you are alone, you can start to recognize that. But it's also been every day I connect more to faith because I can see the magic that is created around me when I trust myself and when I also am discerning with things that come my way. So it's a process. I think that when we're younger, we don't really know that we believe in faith, but we just are happy and pure and we share what's on our heart and our mind, and we're not muddled yet with all of these
Yeah.
expectations and pressures. And then when we get older, it's just a remembering of, okay, if I lean into joy and solid and feel okay on my own and pleasure and movement and expression, then magic and faith exists around me. And so it is a constant remembering. Every time I wake up, it's an opportunity to practice my connection with faith and make choices throughout the day that then reflect that and allow faith to move through me rather than trying to
Mhm.
force or control.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that might have answered the question.
That's
It's such a
totally,
loaded topic. It is.
it is, and I don't go into the religion component because again, as we know, like it can create a divide and it could create separation and could create all kinds of stories of lack of unity and harmony. And so I never go into the religious component. That's the sacredness of anyone's heart. But I do ask about faith because I believe that there's always some sort of greater, higher power, universal energy, which I just call love. And love has a variety
Mm-hmm.
of its expression, male, female. But to me, like God, goddess, divine, is just one word for me is love. And
Mm-hmm.
what's our connection to a benevolent, loving energy that is omnipresence? And do we have a practice connecting to it? Do we have a relationship with it? And it's a loaded question when we look at it through the lenses of religion. And hence why I love this, because it's really creating it into a verb. As I've said with one of my other clients in Toronto, it's like faithing, like operating in the world with like not just faith, but you're faithing. It's every action, it's every thought, it's every breath, and it's bringing the divine into everything, you know? And when that comes in, it's like really, wow, we do remember like everything is fine, everything is divine. Like really, everything is fine, everything is divine. And that was my number one mantra when I got this faith tattoo, was all day, every day, just constantly saying that to myself when life may want to pull us in, you know, distractions to get us to hustle or to be in fear or doubt. So I think it was really valuable. Thank you so much for sharing that
Yeah. I
journey.
mean, my yoga practice is that it teaches you
Exactly.
to love everything, to be very present with the sensations that you feel in your body. You don't have to change anything. It doesn't need to look the way that it did the day before. And you meet yourself where you're at, not where you were or where you hope to be. And that is love. It is pure, ultimate presence. And I bring the reason that I love teaching both yoga and strength and putting them together is because typically a strength practice is all about changing. It's all about trying to get to a goal or working on a program, which is beautiful and amazing. And there's a lot of physical benefits to following a program and to having a goal. But if
Which
you
is
can
very
start to just
masculine. It's very structured,
very
very
masculine,
goal
yes,
oriented. It's very like
great.
climbing the
We
peak
need
of the mountain. And like, that's the thing that matters the most, which, you know, we know what happens in that place, especially if you're in a female body, right? So go into, I love what you're saying, going into the flow
yeah.
component.
We need both, but yes, you need the feminine, you need the flow in a strength practice because you have to be present with what sensations are coming up. And you're also not honoring the body if you're just doing what you have written down or someone told you to do versus actually being in a conversation with your body, which is divine, because that's happening right now. Our body knows so much more than our mind does. And it is so intelligent, so wise. It keeps you safe. Your heart beats without you asking it to. You breathe. You can breathe consciously, but you breathe subconsciously. All of that happens. That is divine. This life is divine. Being alive is divine. And so if you can bring that energy into a strength training practice, you're going to recognize what is actually there and you'll get so much more out of the session, which then just influences the next time that you show up to the gym or your yoga mat or a conversation with a
I
loved one.
love this. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because this again is so cutting edge. Nobody's talking about this when it comes to the intersection, right, of something that seems more quote unquote woo woo holistic, which is yoga, which we know is a science, and also the strength training in the building, which is also a science to building your body. So what is like a session like for you? What makes a difference if someone was to kind of be in that experience with you versus just seeing a girl working out at a CrossFit place and they're just like, oh, she's just a CrossFit girl, right? What's actually the inner experience that shifts it to transform it into a divine experience?
Step one, having an intention and being aware, showing up with an intention for whatever that practice is going to be. And it's not necessarily holding to a structure of a goal or that the session has to look a certain way, but it's why are you showing up right now? Is it love or is it fear? Are you showing up to move your body, to experience something, to be curious, or are you doing it because you need to change something? And that's okay one way or the other, but you just need to be present and aware, connecting to your breath. A lot of people are not using this tool to move their body. You get so much more out of a repetition, an expression of a pose, if you're using your breath and if you're allowing that component. I mean, yoga is union, and you're linking breath and body, you're linking mind and heart and spirit. And so you can do that also if you have weights in your hand.
Yeah.
And I also constantly, with myself, when I'm in a training practice or a training session, or if I'm teaching a class or I'm training a client, I always invite moments of contrast and pause throughout the experience, particularly after something incredibly intense, because the actual work isn't the work, it's what comes up from the work. So if you've done something really intense, a big set, a big explosive motion, close your eyes and breathe and feel what the body is now responding to. because
Mm,
that's going to give you the magic. And we rush through that.
yes.
You rush through your repetitions, your sets, and you don't give that spaciousness. And how you transition in life is how you live your life. So if you're rushing, you're not going to, let's say you're having a conversation with someone, but you're already thinking about the next meeting that you have and you're rushing to it, you're missing the juice from each one. So
Yeah.
being really present with each moment, seeing what comes up, and then, you know, being cool with what happened and letting it go.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, again, I haven't heard anyone speak about it in this way, and
Mm.
it's awesome, especially being someone who loves fitness and dance and movement. So it's
I know
great.
you do. Yep.
Yeah, all the time. And so it's great to hear how you approach your fitness with that yogic mindset, but also specifically yogic practices, right? To
That's
that
right.
world. So it's a really cool intersection. And what I also think is important to start to share is like, we both live here right now as a male in LA. I'm, part-time in Puerto Rico, but also we're in LA. We're in like
Mm-hmm.
the mecca of bodybuilding. I go to freaking Gold's Gym. It's like the mecca. Health and fitness and working out, and our bodies are just like pedestalized and idolized. And it's just like go, go, go. And also, like, people are running around all the time around the city. Also in New York, people run around all the time too. And what I tend to see with my own practice was I was doing a lot of gym stuff. And that's also how I was approaching a lot of my work back in my 20s. And it was like, go, 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 go. And as we see constantly, like that era of going, 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 especially for women, it's different because men have testosterone of higher scale than women, and men are designed physiologically to go and lift and do and live life and operate at a very different operating system fundamentally, right? And when a lot of women get in the fitness space, I've had a couple of clients who have done bodybuilding competitions, they do macro, they do dieting, they lose their period, they come to me, they also have leaky gut, they have hormone issues, they have skin issues, they're still in these dysfunctional romantic relationships, dysfunctional friendship relationships,
Mm-hmm.
massively disconnected from their feminine essence, as we know. And it's not actually then thriving in any of those arenas, but you look really good, right? Or you won your bodybuilding competition, as she did win. But then what happens, and what I've seen, and I coach so many women, is like then there's the downward spiral of like self-hate. And what you're saying is like they don't have that same yogic awareness as they're on that journey. So now it's like problems with food, hating the way they look in the mirror, right? Feeling
Mm-hmm.
that disconnection, settling on less. And then there's like such this downward spiral, which is why I believe this whole soft girl era movement is happening, because so many women are
Right.
waking up to realize, fuck, like I am so out of whack and so out of sync with what actually my body truly needs. And it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of scary because they know some level of success, or even more of an adrenaline level of business success, making five figures, multiple five figures in their business and in their gym, but then every other area is suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something where I think is important to talk about, of like, why is it even coming up, right? And these
Right.
experiences, and why this movement is really challenging women specifically, right? To come back to something that you said earlier, like the playfulness and the innocence and the divinity that is
Mm-hmm.
actually natural and intrinsic to a feminine woman body from birth. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
are connected to the earth, we are connected to joy, to innocence, and that's actually where we really truly thrive. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that you're bringing some of this back into the space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important to connect to your soft energy, but you can't lose the strength. And there's a misconception between strong and control, or strong and aggressive. Like power isn't aggressive. Power can stand in its own energy and awareness and knowing without forcing or pushing. And so a lot of the trying to change your body or controlling all your food or doing things because you think that you're supposed to is about forcing. You're forcing something upon the body, as opposed to listening and being in conversation and relationship, which is soft, but also strong because you're still connected. If you go so far soft, then you're not doing anything and you're just waiting for someone to help you and do the thing. That's not the essence of a fully established being.
I love
so
that. I love that.
And I found I was so far in the masculine of control because I too was weighing my food and felt like I needed to stick to a standard of what I looked like, and lost my period I believe I lost my cycle for energetic and emotional reasons as well. But of course, my body didn't trust me anymore. And when you get to a place where you think about if you're in a relationship or a conversation with a friend and they're telling you something, but you're not listening and you keep forcing, they don't want to talk to you anymore.
Right.
And so the body does the same thing. If you keep forcing and you're not listening to what it's saying, it's like, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And then you hit a point where you plateau, your body doesn't change the way that you want it to, you lose your cycle, you're not sleeping, you're not happy, and you're missing the joy and the beauty of life. And so even before I got my period back, and we can dive into that a little bit if you want, because I think a lot of that,
I think it'd be helpful for them to understand like where you were in this cycle before we met and like where you also are now on the other side of after meeting me and after what you've experienced as well from your journey of like being in that place as you're identifying. I think that'd be really helpful for people to understand like the before, the after, the transformation, and
absolutely
how that's happened for you, like how you, created that.
Well, thank you for helping me reconnect with my cycle and my flow. And also thank you to my body for listening to me or letting me hear her so that she could start to flow and cycle. I lost my period not when I was doing bikini competitions or fitness modeling, which is really important to note because a lot of people would have assumed that it was the food and it was that overtraining, which perhaps there was a piece of it that my body got a little too tired. But what really happened is I stopped listening and I was forcing and I got so into control. So I think it was really an emotional and an energetic
Thank
expression.
You for naming that. Thank you for naming that.
Because it's not that.
Yes.
Right.
People want to blame that right away. And that's why
immediately.
I'm like, thank you for naming it.
I've had women reach out to me and they say, oh, my doctor just says I need to stop exercising and I need to eat more. And I'm like, well, what are you eating? That doesn't sound that bad. I don't think you should stop exercising. It gives you joy. You're not overdoing it. And it again, that's a form of control.
Right.
Instead of like you have to slow down, but you also have to feel safe in your body, which brings us back to the beginning of this conversation, in that I didn't feel safe in my body and I didn't feel safe in my life because I had been given reason around me to not feel safe. And I was waiting and hoping for external sources to make me feel safe as opposed to just developing that within myself. So a lot of the work that we did and a lot of the work that I did in my period of solitude and moving to LA from New York and redeveloping this relationship with myself, my passions, and then also connecting with community was feeling safe and not requiring other people to make me feel safe, but to feel safe first and then entering into these spaces. And as I was going through that, I did everything. It was like medication, acupuncture, changing food, literally everything. And I don't think that it was any of those things. I think it was really the moment that I felt safe in my body. And the practices that allowed me to do that were meditation, coaching with you, yoga, really leaning into my strength practice the way that we just talked about it, where I wasn't going in because I needed to look a certain way. Instead, it was like, I'm going to feel so strong right now. It's going to feel so good. And I'm going to like be with every sensation and like get into that energy. And that also influenced my reconnection with my sexuality and being able to have that like, feeling
juiciness
in the gym. In the gym and on my yoga mat. And
It's
when I'm
so
dancing,
orgasmic. Yeah, it's
it,
so
it is.
orgasmic.
It is. And I'll say that my body looks and moves and feels so much better now when I am bleeding and when I am listening to her than when I was trying to force her to look and do and feel and be a certain way. And that really starts with safety. And the only way that you can connect to your safety is being in solitude, being aware, being present, having pleasure for even the difficult moments that are coming through, the difficult thoughts, being with all of it, and then alchemizing it. And it's a long journey. It takes a really long time, but you have to continue to show up and to step into it. And that's really, I mean, my philosophy is flow into strong, which is what I've
Yeah.
lived through over the past few years. Really, it feels like a 10-year long journey. And on the other side of it, I'm so in love with myself. I am excited to put out more work in the world, and I fell in love, and I didn't have to really
Yes.
effort for any of that. All of it
Mm.
magnetized towards me.
I know. It's just been such a beautiful journey to like
So
witness.
cool.
It's been so cool to like witness you and to see, you know, how much you've grown and you've blossomed in the time of us working together, and like just knowing the depths and your willingness. And I can hear like the way you show up to your, you know, your strength practice and to the physical practice. I'll say like when I give you homework and when I give you challenges or when I give you direct, like you show up to that type of emotional mental work, you train for it the same way you do physically. And that's also what I believe is what makes someone a really, again, strong, powerful, influential leader, is that it's not just doing it in one wheelhouse, right? It's really like training and using all of this material in life as a training ground to be better, to unleash more of our wildest and highest, you know, potentials. And it was such a journey. And for those that are, you know, are listening as well, the healing journey does take time. As we're saying, there's a softness, there's the relaxation, there's, you know, being able to be with yourself. And in solitude, it may look very different. It may be totally going into, you know, a cave and not seeing some friends, but solitude could also mean moments or nights when you're on your own. It doesn't mean you have to go and live by yourself on an island and feel like that's also the only way you're going to do it, because it doesn't happen. And also,
Right.
just one piece that you said is, I also want to just highlight, because I do believe that change takes time and sometimes it's a long time. But also, I know very deeply from all of the training work I've also done with Tony Robbins, is change can happen in a second. When
Mm-hmm.
you decide, it can happen in a second, and energy shifts in a second. So it also doesn't mean it takes a long time. Like, and that was something that I shared with you, was like, give me 4 months, girl. We're going to get it. Give me this
Mm-hmm.
timeline, because it's like that level of knowing and certainty of how to speak with the body. When you're skilled in that arena, our body, as you said, it's always talking, but it's also always neurosensing. Our nervous system is always sensing and communicating with our environment. And when we find someone where we're like, wow, my nervous system starts to feel safer with you, that's a great opportunity to lean in that way, because then you're toning and strengthening your nervous system. And we're talking about strengthening everything. We want to do the same thing with our nervous system, finding the right
Mm-hmm.
teachers, the mentors, the programs that help you in your nervous system feel like, wow, it feel a little bit more relaxed, even though it's exciting, but also it's going to expand it. It's going to tone it. It's going to, you know, strengthen it. And that's really, really, I just want to add that piece, because it is important to also say that, yes, it's a journey, and also like
Right.
things can happen, right? Even love that can come in our life can just happen, right?
Yeah.
So really letting go
I
of,
mean, that happens. That happened
yeah,
for
it
me
happens, right?
in both getting my period back and also finding the love of my life. And it, what's crazy, I think when we say it takes time, we're discrediting the fact that so much work is happening underneath the surface and in and all around us, even if we can't see it. Same with the sensations that are happening in our body while we're training. There are things that are happening even if you can't see it. And so for me, the real faith that I have in this process is that my partner had known about me for almost 2 years before we connected. And I had no idea who this person was. And the moment that I decided, the moment I chose myself fully, which was really in getting my period back, and then also deciding to put this program out, Flow into Strong, this fitness program that is now birthed into the world, the moment that I decided to do that was when he felt this ping to ask a mutual friend for a connection. And so, yes, things take time, but things are always working.
Yes.
Even if you can't see it.
100%. And speaking to the embodiment of that, right? Like the embodiment of going from, and we're going to call it more like hustle grind culture, more like indoctrinated into more traditional masculine ways of being, ways of operating, that some of them is great for the feminine, healthy masculine systems, structures. You wouldn't be able to create your program if you didn't have some systems and structures, right, to show in. And it's only as much as we need to put into place to help us flow into our power and our creativity and our magnetism. Yeah, and that's the most captivating, magnetic, powerful, potent feminine force on the planet that makes everything feel so effortless, and that's so captivating, which I'm stoked when I got the message, like, oh my God, and I got to see the photos of you guys. I was like, yes, I was like,
and then you met us.
teary-eyed, and I met you guys, and I was just like, wow. Like I like, again, like any win is like, I always feel so grateful and honored to be able to like witness it and know that, in some small way or big way, like that I've, been able to be a part of that journey. And that's what I think is so beautiful, is that, and why, again, I was so excited to have you on the shows, because really, like, the magic in all of this is to be able to do this together, to witness each other, to empower each other, to learn together, to grow together, to share our wins, to share our challenges and our pains. And all of that helps us to really expand our models of the world so it's more rich and more abundant, and also embody more of our power, not from a performative place, but from a place that really truly feels real and authentic and intimate and unabashed in exciting, healthy ways.
Yes, to all of that. I mean, Flow into Strong is that experience. Like, you can have people around you hold a container, you can hold a container for yourself, so you can dance in that energy. And that is being a soft girl and remembering your strength, because you need to have you have to have your hands open to receive. You can't just be clenching all the time, but you also need to have you have to have the hands out. If you're so soft, you can't hold anything. And so being able to do that in community and to continue to recognize these different energies within ourselves is how we can all be the most incredible versions of ourselves, find true transformation, and alchemize all of the magic that we want in the world.
I would love to know, because I want to hear more about the program and for those that feel called to the work to be in it. But before we go into that, I would love to know what's like a day in a life for you. How do you, right? How do you embody your philosophy? Because there's a difference between having a philosophy and being a teacher, especially in the age of Instagram and influencers, and anyone can go to ChatGTP and type up a whole program and then show up and sell it like they're performing, like, for sure, right? My philosophy is fucking tattooed on my body, and I think yours might be too. You've got an arrow, exactly.
Breathe and an arrow. That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you. So in a world of so much, fluff, how do you, Queen Alexandra, embody your philosophy? So what's like a day in a life for you where you can paint the picture of how you're flowing with your strength and your feminine essence? How are you in your soft girl, strong woman era?
So everyone's so obsessed with morning routines and having this, like, every day I do the same thing. That to me is not flow at all, or being present to what's coming up for you, especially as a woman, where every single day is completely different based off of our hormones and what's happening in the world. Even if you're a man and you wake up and something's just off for that day. And so I try not to hold myself to a morning routine. There are some mornings where I wake up and I sit and I meditate. Or there are some mornings where I grab my dog and the first thing I do is go on a really long walk. And so starting with awareness, but of course, there's always at least an hour in the morning that's dedicated to me to be introspective and to recognize what do I need for the day? How am I going to approach the energy of the day and move forward? I then obviously always have movement, but just because I've planned a very intense strength workout doesn't mean that it needs to happen. I give myself flexibility to choose a movement practice that meets me where I'm at, not where I decided I needed to be. And that can be physically if my body doesn't feel the best, or energetically or emotionally if I feel that I need to do something else. And I've created something called a movement menu, which is where you're trying out all of these different movement modalities, your strength training, your yoga, maybe Pilates, your running, whatever you need, swimming. And you start to, the invitation is that when you go to do these practices, you're recognizing what did I feel emotionally before, and how did I feel emotionally after? What was the feedback that I received during that session? Then you can start to realize.
Is this in your program also? Is this in a part of the program? Okay, great.
There's conversation about the movement menu in there. Beautiful. And it's important to recognize, for me, if I wake up and I need to just like get energy out, but I also have to kind of process something, I'll go on a run. Going and being on a yoga mat is not going to work because the thoughts are going to keep coming in and I won't give myself enough time to actually be with them. And so when you start to develop this relationship with not only your body, but also your movement practice, you can choose something that's best for you. And so day in my life, I always move, but I make a choice. I give myself time in the day, always dedicated to movement, but what that is shifts depending on the day, depending on my mood. Nourishing my body is a big part of my day. Being in a relationship with my food. I started blessing and praying to my food before I eat it, which has been very, very beneficial. Even if there's no true woo-woo magic that happens, although I believe that there is, you pause, you take a moment, you set an intention, and then when you're ingesting and you're being a part of that relationship, it's just going to impact you in such a better way. And that's if I'm.
I mean, science has proven that. Right. Like experiment with water. It's like, you put the intention, literally the molecules change. So there is science that's actually behind that principle and that particular, practice. And anyone who's gone through any kind of eating disorder or health recovery as well, I always say, like, for your nervous system, just even taking a few deep breaths before you eat softens your body into the rest and digest. So I love that as well.
Even before we started our podcast, we took a moment to set an intention and hold a meditation. And that's also something I've been implementing in my relationship. We set an intention for the week. We check in after, and you can do that with friends. How can I meet you here in this conversation? And so that's an important part of my day. And then of course, teaching and serving and working with my clients. And what I think I've learned the most out of doing this for about 10 years, actually 10 years plus, is that I like to have a plan, but prepare to be unprepared. So have an idea around what you want to do. With a strength training class or training a one-on-one client, I do have a little bit more of a framework, but be flexible, be willing to be flexible. And when you give yourself that space to be flexible, wisdom can flow through you. So you're not gripping tightly to what you had imagined the experience to be. You go in with an intention, and then I believe you let spirit speak through you. And so I then also get downloads from those experiences too. And so I really do find that my whole day is flow into strong. Every moment is allowing myself to go through awareness, connection to source, pleasure, solitude, identity, and really slowing down. And if I'm going too fast, which definitely sometimes happens, I breathe, which is tattooed on my wrist. I take a deep breath. It's the one thing that can shift your state of consciousness immediately if you just tap into it.
Yes, I love, 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 love those pieces. And, as you're speaking, I'm sure all the audience can hear too, like, you're speaking about flow, and yet there's also a lot of strength in your voice from the experience. And I just want to also name that piece is, we're talking about, yes, physical strength, but really, I hope you've gotten a lot out of this episode by really hearing like the mental, emotional resilience and strength that we're talking about here, right? Which makes us so much more powerful, right? And able to help so many other people. Because if we're emotionally or mentally weak, but we're physically strong, we're going to be very, very challenged with being able to actually live our dharma, do the deep work that's necessary and needed, to also hold space or help or teach or lead other people and live a very soul aligned, like authentic life. And so I want to really name that as well as you're speaking. It's like you can hear the strength inside of your voice because you've lived it as well. You've walked into the fire, you've danced in it, you've shed in it. You're really, milking and receiving the gifts, which again shows you're out of it and on the other side, which is what makes any teacher an amazing teacher when they're embodied in the work.
Thank you. That's why this work was not ready to be birthed until I got to this side. And to speak to physical strength versus emotional or mental strength, I've been strong my whole life. Physically, I've been strong. I had accolades that proved I was strong. I had trophies that proved I was strong. I could deadlift, whatever, all of that, sure. But life wasn't juicy. And all we really want as humans is to be in community, to love, to feel purpose, and to be happy. And if you're just doing all of that,
and to have orgasm.
I was not,
and
to have orgasm, that's right, and deep pleasure and like juicy.
Yeah, we
yes.
we want that. Let's like, if you're on the show, you want that.
That's right. I forgot who I was talking to and who was listening. All the orgasms.
We want all the orgasms. We want all the juice. We want the power. We want the embodiment. We want the sex. We want the intimacy. We want the kinkiness. We want all of it. And we know that there's always more on the cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's right. And if you're only focused on one piece of this strength, you will never get any of that. And I know from experience because I had all of it and then it went away and I didn't feel any pleasure or orgasm or excitement or joy or passion. And then starting from that place of, okay, let me get into physical, or let me get into emotional strength, into spiritual strength. Yes. That's when I could then fully experience what life is. And so if you're going to do my workout program, is your body going to change? Yes, it's science. Of course you're going to look different. Of course you'll feel physically stronger, but will you be happy without going into the deeper work that I'm inviting you to do? No, like there's more in there. And that's why I love every fitness instructor and trainer out there. Bless. Like we need to get people moving. We need to make them feel strong in their body. But I like to teach this practice like a meditation and like a deeper conversation with your body. And my deepest goal is not that everybody takes my program or my classes, is that every person in this position to help somebody connect to their body does it in a way that is deeper than just aesthetic and physical. That would be my biggest blessing in the entire world, because movement is power, movement is magic, and we can use it to really, really shift consciousness.
Absolutely. And I forgot who said it, but also aging is just a sign of lack of movement. So if you don't want to age and you want to stay young and juicy and alive, move your body. So I love also what you're doing. And tell me, how long is the fitness program? And it sounds like you have a really cool thing called the menu modules. So tell us a little bit more about it.
So this program is a 4-week foundations program for my philosophy called Flow into Strong. Each week is connected to the philosophy that I just mentioned. So the first week is awareness. Second week is your pleasure. Third week is solitude, which is a deload week. You need to take rest. Fourth week is identity and transformation. And within that, each week you have a yoga practice. You have 3 strength training practices using there's some body weight, but mostly you're using equipment. We've got kettlebells, which I am trained and skilled in, and then also dumbbells. And then as well, each week starts with a priming meditation and a reflection meditation, so that you're going a little bit deeper into what's happening in this week, in these experiences, in this movement. Every class is with me. It's fully video guided. You can do it on your computer, it's on your phone, and it is the start of more programs and videos and content like this that I will continue to put out into the world. I have been working for other people for a very long time, and I've always felt that I couldn't speak freely or fully or be as big. And so taking up space and sharing this with the world the way that I feel that I can is really the magic. And the movement menu is within there. Movement menu is teaching you that experience with each of these modalities so that you can then start to craft an experience on your own. Again, another goal of mine is not that you're with me forever. It's that you develop the tools to flow into your own strong, and you can start to create whatever you need for yourself. But I'm always there with you. I'm your best friend who does yoga and lifts really, really heavy weights with you.
Right, which is a sign of true empowerment, not codependency. We don't want people to be with us forever. Of course, we want to be in your life forever as a best friend, as a colleague, as a confidant, as someone to celebrate. But any great teacher never wants them to be with them forever, because it's about really deeply empowerment, and that empowerment does come from the self-empowerment. So I love that you broke it down into the 4 modules. This is your first course that you've done with your name, with your
Fully
own
on my own.
with your own branding. Yeah. And is it a go at your own pace? Like they can connect with you and they have community and all those pieces. Yes.
Yes to all of it. Community. We have an Instagram that's separate. I have my broadcast channel where we connect, and you can do it on your own pace. Also, there's an option to just purchase one class if you just want to try that, or just one meditation. So it's build your own experience. I definitely recommend doing the whole course because it's built in sequence and for this journey. But this is the first one, and there will be many, many more. And I'm very excited to lean into this and to start this journey with so many people.
Oh, I love that. And congratulations on the launch of this. I know that this has been a process, and it's exciting again to see it off the ground and see you take up space and do it for you. And again, it really shows the beauty that happens when, especially as women, we really follow our feminine leadership, where we practice empathy and patience and create safe spaces for ourselves and each other with our expression to really grow. And I love that we're here for the leadership. I love that we are here for the self-care. I love that we're here for like the self-driven empowerment, because that I feel is what soft girl era is about, is really it's taking that sovereignty back and doing things our own way, the way we want to do it, and knowing that it's going to work for us in that way. And that transcends any like race or culture or background. It's anyone who wants to connect more to the feminine side of life, the sensual side of life, and approach with that, which is a bit more holistic anyway. So is this course you're also offering for women and men? Is it just women, or what's like the demographic that would be attracted to this?
It's for men and women. I obviously connect more with women because a lot of this process for me has been around claiming my femininity, reconnecting to her, my sexuality. So there is an essence that flows through that, but the course is not designed specifically for one gender or expression of a gender. And anyone can go through this process. Finding awareness, pleasure, solitude, and identity is something that everybody should be leaning into as a human to flow into their own strong. And I've even seen that there a little bit of a movement with men being a little too soft, right? Of like leaning too much into vulnerability. And then we're missing that container that we need as women. We need men to claim us. We need them that not control us, but claim. And
we need them to drop into their balls. We need them to drop into their balls. We need them, as I say in my workshops, all the crypto bros love it when I'm like, listen, drop into your cock right now and feel it and connect to it so you can bring it into your heart, just like women do. There's a lot of soft men that have been out there.
Right.
I agree with that. And like having that strength and the balance is like, we need more women connected to their bodies as we do need more men connected to
Sure.
their bodies.
Sure.
100%.
We can't be queens if they're not kings.
100%. And we can also, I believe, really, as the feminine leadership, we also really are the ones that go first when it comes to love, sex, intimacy, and romance. And so we also can't expect a man to be a total king in the bedroom
Sure.
when he hasn't had as much experience or safety, right? And so there's a difference. It's more nuanced. We won't go into this episode, but there definitely is more nuance when it comes to like a man who's like boss babe, boss man, or boss babe for a woman, boss babe, but like she can't be a sexy goddess at night, or the man who's like, totally artist and has all this flow in his life and his business and makes no money, but then is the best bedroom lover. And it's like, there's a lot of these off balances, right? Or a man who's very successful financially, but is very soft in the romance department, is very scared because of these different movements in society of trying to make a move. And it's unfortunate that so many men are suffering and feel so terrified to even like step up to a powerful woman. And so we're shifting that dynamic more and more. And just even having this conversation is shifting that, right, on a global scale,
Sure.
that invitation. So, but
I
that's
hope
what
so.
I ask to find out, like, who your demographic is for those that are
Yep.
listening. Share this with their partner or couples that are listening. You could always do this together as a fun
That's right.
to do.
I love working out
Strengthen
with
your
my man. I know
connection.
you do too.
I do too. My man and me work out. It's such a fun activity to do together. So that's why I was wondering, who your work is really for, so we can really share it with all the people. And if you want to connect with this beautiful powerhouse deeper, share with your socials. Where can they find you all? And we'll
You
put
can
in the
find
show
me
notes,
at
of course.
you can find me at Alex Silver-Fagan, AlexSilverFagan, and then also flowintostrong.com, which is where you'll find the program and all of the information for so many goodness to come.
Beautiful, my love. Such a pleasure having you on the show, being able to hear and celebrate and witness all the shifts, and such a delightful conversation.
So good. So juicy. Thank you so much, Josefina.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much, my love. It's a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Mwah.
Bye.